So I would probably say mine, Trick already kind of mentioned the Broncos and the Raiders. I legitimately think the AFC West can have 3 playoff teams. And it's all four, are honestly, had upside. The one that we're all shocked about is Las Vegas. I mean, I came in thinking that this was, a 6-win team. Last year, again, I was low on them and they kind of surprised me in the beginning of the year. And then they went back to where I kind of saw them. But this year, I'm buying in on Las Vegas. I think their defense is top 15. I think Derek Carr, like the pre-snap reads that I'm seeing him make, because I've gotten to see him in watch him both times. One was on a national stage and the other one was against a big team in Pittsburgh. His pre-snap reads and just him being able to look at defenses, I think he's really taken another level up this year. Like just breaking down, audibles, changing plays. You could see it in overtime. I thought that was a huge reason why they were able to win. So I think Derek Carr is really, I think he's taking another level mentally, right? He's always had the physical tools. He's had a great deep ball. He's always been accurate, but I think the mental game is where he's really taking another step forward. And that Raiders defense, again, like I said, Max Crosby is really putting himself up there in like top 5 to 7 edge rusher. I think he's getting up there. So that's one. And obviously we talked about Denver last week too. I know they're against New York and Jacksonville, but you can't ignore their defense. Obviously some injuries to Bradley Chubb concern me a little bit, and Jerry Jeudy as well. But I think, Denver's going to have a good roster. All depends on Teddy Bridgewater, who's quieted the turnovers. LA, we know what they have with Justin Herbert, that offensive line. Obviously the Chargers defenses look good. Derwin James, number 1 PFF ranked safety, and then Kansas City. So that's my takeaway. I think the AFC West can legit have 3 playoff teams this year.
With the Raiders and the Broncos, I mean, for me, I'm not as high on the Broncos as I am the Raiders. I'm buying some Raiders stock. I still need to see something from Denver because, again, Chubb goes down, Josie Jewell goes down.
Yep.
That's a huge loss. He's a big leader for that Denver defense. But with the Raiders, I think Derek Carr is playing the best football he's played since 2016. From what I've been able to see through 2 weeks, I've always been a believer in Derek Carr. I've always thought he was an underrated QB, doesn't get the flowers he deserves. But, man, he has stuck it through with this organization. He has been through thick and thin. And, honestly, he's making use of his weapons. I know Darren Waller gets a ton of targets, but that throw to Ruggs at the end of that Steelers game was perfect. One of the best throws I've ever seen him make.
Minkah bites one time, and
Minkah and Witherspoon were on the coverage, and Ruggs was just using his speed to his advantage there. It was a perfect route, perfect ball from Derek Carr, and one of my favorite throws of the weekend. But again, the running game, let's see what happens when Josh Jacobs comes back into the lineup. I know that's a pretty big concern, especially because Kenyon Drake hasn't shown too much so far. And the Raiders defense has been impressive. Crosby is back in form. I think the hiring of Gus Bradley really changed things. I think this whole defense has just looked a lot more motivated, a lot more hungry compared to last year. Less lapses in coverage. So I think they've been doing pretty good. And honestly, I'm buying more Raiders stock than I am the Broncos because I need the Broncos to prove it to me a little bit more. Same with the Raiders, but I think the Broncos more so.
I'm not completely sold on either the Raiders or the Broncos yet, but I don't think we should be using the fact that the Broncos have only played Jacksonville and Las Vegas as a knock on them because they kind of dominated in both of those games. Like there were a lot of close games that were closer than they should have been. And the Broncos haven't had one of those yet. So they're cleaning up against the competition they should be. And of course they played the Jets this week, which I will say, honestly, and I'm not being biased, is I feel like a little bit of a trap game for the Broncos with Bradley Chubb out and with the Jets bouncing back from a bad performance and kind of the whole team playing well outside of Zach Wilson.
Are we hearing an upset pick?
No, I'm sticking
in Mile High
with Denver. I'm sticking with Denver. But just because it's in Denver, like honestly, if it was in New York, I might have pulled the trigger. But I really do like the Broncos as a whole. Whether they have the upside as a team to make the playoffs, I'm not quite sure yet. And with the Raiders, we've heard this story before. Like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want their performance to distract everyone from the fact they did this same thing last year and didn't make the playoffs and completely
But not
fell
to this
off.
extent, though. Not to the. I feel like they didn't start off 2-0 either.
Yeah,
year.
they didn't start off like this hot.
They started off 6-4 last 2 years and missed the playoffs.
And they've beaten. It's two great defenses.
The competition that they've beaten. I know they beat New Orleans last year, but I think I don't know. Something seems a little bit different.
Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
You're right. It does seem a little bit different. But I still, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, is it sustainable? Is it really sustainable? Like, because quarterbacks, especially when they're late in their careers, like Derek Carr, they don't flip like that year to year. You never see this jump in improvement from one season to another in a quarterback in their 30s. It never happens like that. Sure, you may see some second-year quarterbacks turn it on, or a third-year guy like Josh Allen, but at a guy like Derek Carr's age, there kind of isn't that room for improvement across a full season. So it's been 2 games. I'm kind of pumping the brakes a little bit on the Raiders, and I might be proven completely wrong. I'm not sure how sustainable their offensive production is. Yeah, they got Waller, and Carr's been playing well so far, but do we trust Josh Jacobs over an entire season? Do we trust Henry Ruggs to continue what he's been doing? I like Bryan Edwards, but is he going to show up big like he did against Baltimore every time, like in those big situations? I'm not quite sure. The defense, I do believe, like I can buy into them being a solid unit for the rest of the year, but I'm just pumping the brakes a little bit. I still think it is pretty likely that there are 3 teams from this division that make the playoffs, because I don't think that the Broncos and the Raiders fall off. And I'm pretty confident on the Chargers. I think a Justin Herbert blow-up game is coming super soon. He's made some of the most incredible throws, and without penalties, his lines would have looked so much better over the last couple of weeks, and he's played 2 solid teams.
Chargers, same mistakes though. 12 penalties. That is a little. But I gotta put Staley on that a little bit.
You can admit though, some of those penalties should have stayed in the pocket.
But illegal shifts at the 1 yard line. There was
no illegal shift.
And
the play after. The play after not having a pass interference in the end zone. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert.
Some more questionable, I'll agree, but there's just some mistakes that,
And here's the thing: if Justin Herbert, we remember that sack, obviously, where they ruled it forward progress. If Justin Herbert threw that ball, that's intentional grounding. So that's another penalty right there.
That's true.
At least in my opinion. So I don't know.
All I'm saying is I still have faith in the Chargers. The Chiefs will make the playoffs. I agree with you, Niche. I think it's pretty likely that one more team from this division makes the playoffs.